Welcome back to the Remote No Pressure Podcast, Bill.
Hey. Hello.
It's February, mid-February.
That it is.
It feels like the spring outside.
It does. It feels like a March day.
It's weird.
Or like that April day when we went fly fishing a couple years ago.
Yeah, remember when we went with Murph in February?
No, April.
When it was 0 degrees?
Yeah.
It was April?
Yep.
What the heck, dude? I remember my glove literally fell in the water and I pulled it out and it was frozen by the time I got it up by my face.
Yep. Yeah, it was a crazy day.
Murph is like, it's not that bad of a wade. And then there was that one big turn. I'm like, I'm going to die today. I'm going to die of hypothermia.
A mile down this river. Yeah.
Away from everything.
Yep.
It was like, Murph, seriously? But Murph was young. Murph's young. He probably went there with his dad or something or with his friends. And he's like, oh, it's not a big deal. But then when you're like in the water and you're like, oh, wait.
And it's freezing.
I'll tell you a funny story. I think Izzy, you know your friend Izzy who's at your wedding? Yeah, so Izzy, our friend, I should say, because he is a friend of mine. He's a Facebook friend now that you just talk to when you see him every
if you're on
10
Facebook.
years. You see him every 10 years, like, oh, yeah, we're still on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
We should connect, but you're never going to connect.
Yeah.
You know, one of those friends?
Yeah.
Well, so it was Izzy, Nino, and their crew.
Yep.
They had a band, I think. I can't remember, La Teta or something like that. Tierra.
Wow,
right?
the way you said it sounded a little racist.
Anytime a white person tries a Spanish, just tries it.
Tries a Spanish.
If a white person tries a Spanish, you immediately sound like a racist. I was gonna say tries the Spanish accent, but the accent didn't come far enough. What is going on in my mind? And you're like, you caught it, and that's what I like about you, Bill. Anytime a white person tries a Spanish accent and it's not good, I don't think that's considered racist.
No, I don't believe it is either. But in this culture we are in today,
yeah, pathetic, but not racist. I think sad.
That's a trigger word for somebody.
Racist?
Yeah.
Or Spanish?
Whoa.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm going to leave that alone.
Start beeping out like the Asian carp episode.
Because everybody loved that.
Everybody loved they still talk to me about the Asian carp episode everywhere we go. No, but so we go up to the Muskegon River where I would normally put in at Pine Street. And I'm thinking, no, it's not that far to downtown Newaygo. Because, river miles is a lot different than road miles, So we're floating. We had cars parked in downtown Newaygo, Michigan, and we just floated with just like swimming like idiots. I was like, 22, 23-year-old kid,
Yeah.
And it starts getting darker and darker. And it's like, holy crap, we're going to be on this river with no boats. Nothing. We're just swimming it. We're going to swim to downtown Newaygo like a couple idiots.
How far was it?
It was a long time. We got out of the water in the dark.
Oh.
It was very scary.
Especially in the dark because you don't know the landmarks that well on the river.
Right.
On the water. So it always feels different than just driving it or walking in the woods,
Well, too.
It's a different perspective you're not used to.
Yeah. And the Muskegon River and there's some parts that are really it's in a big ravine.
Valley.
Yeah. And so.
The river valley.
It was a pretty scary thing. And I'm like, I'm responsible for killing all of these people. I am personally responsible because I was like, hey, let's do this, But
you only lost 3 people, so it wasn't a bad excursion.
Only one person didn't. We don't know where he is to this day.
But we are Facebook friends. So
we are Facebook friends. So I'm pretty sure he's alive. His only friend is Tom, the Facebook guy. But I'm pretty sure
the MySpace guy.
Yeah, me and Tom are his only friends. No, but seriously, that was a pretty scary thing. But you don't always know, when you're fishing. How do we get on this subject?
We're talking about the cold weather and fly fishing on the white.
Oh yeah. So when you're a kid, you're sometimes you just don't understand
poor decisions.
Yeah, and I think that's what Murph did with us.
Yeah.
It's like, here we are in sub-zero temps. I could fall in this water very easily. We're very far from a car.
Yep.
And I'm like, that would be pretty wild.
That would have been a miserable walk back, too.
Oh.
Through somebody's driveway.
Oh. Yeah, and those owners too are very, very picky about people being on their property.
I don't doubt it.
And I understand to an extent. You know, if it's an emergency, I think they'll legally you have a right of way in Michigan.
I think so. You should.
But like, yeah, you don't cut through people's land because they will get pissed.
I would be too.
Yeah, I understand.
Get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn, you anglers. And then they see a fly rod and they're like, oh, those guys are okay. They're not going to leave their beer cans out here. Are those your Natty Light cans? No, sir. No, sir. I'm a fly angler. Oh, okay. Would you like a microbrew? Come on in. No, that wasn't how it went down at all. I actually, what happened was I took my father-in-law on that same stretch. And we're like, where is this like parking lot? Because that parking area is kind of a weird spot.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say where this is all at because it's an amazing river. And we were lost essentially, and there was a driveway, and I'm like, let's just hit this driveway. It was like probably 20 yards, right? And we'll get to the road and just walk over. And the guy came on, it's like, where are you going? I'm like, to my car. He goes, not this way, you're not. And I'm like, okay. Like, I'm not going to argue with him because I totally get it, trying to be a nice, I was like, I'm sorry, we're just kind of lost. I didn't even say that. I was just like, okay, no problem. And it turned out like 3 bends later, there's my car.
Yeah.
But, you just kind of freak out sometimes.
Yeah.
If you don't know
you don't know the water that well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like my 3rd time to fish
We ran into some nice people when we were out there. Like they were just fishing.
Oh, sure.
On that one bend. And we were allowed to walk behind them on their property.
Yeah,
that bend.
I think that's an actual public property, though.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, like that part where we walked. It's
Yeah.
like an easement or something.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but they were super nice people.
They were.
So, and I don't know, like how I would feel if I saved up this money and bought this nice piece of property.
Exactly.
I get it. I respect that,
And people are just trashing it with beer cans or trash.
Or themselves just urinating and things like that.
Urinating and things like that.
Yeah, other things similar to that.
Okay. Just going to pick up this. Oh my gosh, this is disgusting. It's full of urine.
Fecal discharge.
Oh. That'd be disgusting. A cool band name.
Yeah. This podcast has officially jumped the shark.
Yes.
Jumped the shark. No, but seriously, yeah. So in other news, I really think that Coast to Coast.
Oh, you mean late night sci-fi?
I couldn't remember the name. I was out late last night and I couldn't remember the name of this. So I Googled and Bill's sitting here next to me. He's like, what are you Googling? What did I Google? Late night sci-fi radio?
Yeah. That was pretty funny. I apologize for making fun of it. Couldn't help it.
Oh, there you go. It's not that funny, but anyways, as everyone knows on this podcast, whether you join us on the YouTube channel, I got to look at the camera more. I've noticed that. I got to look at the camera more. But if you're joining us for the first time on YouTube, or maybe this is the first time you've downloaded our episode, an episode of the Remote No Pressure Podcast, we want you to know that we are on the case when it comes to 2 things, Bigfoot and Dogman.
Yes.
Those are the 2 things we are always trying to...
And fly fishing.
And fly fishing, that's right.
So in that order, Bigfoot, Dogman, fly fishing.
We should call it the Remote No Pressure Bigfoot Podcast.
Dogman Fly Fishing Podcast.
Featuring Dogman and Bigfoot as the host.
Featuring band Fecal Discharge.
That's our house band. Yeah. The house band is Fecal Discharge. God, we should be comedy writers. Seriously.
That's only if we're funny. The people at home are like, what am I listening to?
Right now, they're just wondering. They're just trying to go to sleep. Because I know some of you just put this show on to go to sleep at night. I get it. I'm not offended. I've got podcasts like that. Yeah. That I'm like, this is my go-to. And I'm pretty sure this ranks up there. It's like looking in the podcast. It's like you type in sleep. And then R&P comes up in that category. So we get it. But we just want you to know we neither sleep nor slumber when it comes to Bigfoot. And there was actually a Bigfoot sighting not too far from here in the big city of Salt Fork, Ohio.
Oh, Salt Fork, yeah.
Yeah, a pair of hikers in Ohio claim to have captured some rather fantastic footage of Bigfoot roaming through the forest, but not everyone is convinced that it was a genuine Sasquatch encounter. Like how I said genuine versus genuine.
Depends on the part of a genuine.
How do you say it?
Genuine.
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 I would still say genuine, but that's so redneck. Genuine. But I would say it this way. Genuine, but you would say genuine.
That's just my northern Michigan accent speaking, though. I mean,
hey, it's great. I think if I were going to be a professional reporter, I would have to say genuine. Genuine. It sounds like a Inuit. Genuine.
Inuit.
Yeah. So the alleged incident reportedly took place back on January 12th as the two men were visiting Salt Fork State Park near Village of Lore City. They subsequently uploaded the footage to their YouTube channel, We Do It Outdoors, in early February, and it has since gone viral this week.
Sounds legit. Let's take a look.
We'll take a look. We'll post this up on our channels here. Let's take a look. Salt Fork, Ohio Grassman.
Whoa, 10 minutes. I don't know if we got... Whoa, right into it.
There it is.
I don't know.
The thing is, you could rent a suit like this.
Could you? Could I rent a suit? Did they call him Grassman? Is that their dealer?
Did he just say Grassman? Salt Fork, Ohio Grassman Bigfoot. What is a Grassman Bigfoot? Is Grassman like the county they're in?
Yeah, that's a dude in a suit. Look at the way he's walking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he says it's not a person, I think he said it's not a person. It's probably a person.
I think his hands are in his pocket.
It's like one of those suits that you wear to hide from geese and stuff.
A ghillie suit?
Ghillie suit, yeah.
I would totally charge somebody like that. You know what I mean? Like run at them. They're not going to be coordinated in a suit like that. They're probably going to fall down.
Right. He just said, I don't know if he's stupid to walk out here in a suit. He'll get shot. Which means he's probably in a suit. And the guy filming it knows he's not going to get shot.
Yeah. Oh, he's safe if we're behind him. This part of the podcast just totally got boring for the listeners.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, what we'll do is we'll post this up. Remember, what is that show called? Mystery Science Theater 3000?
Yep.
That's what it feels like. Couple of goons looking at a video. We'll post this up. You be the judge on whether or not it is legit or not.
Comment below.
Like,
share, subscribe.
Leave a
subscribe to our YouTube channel. We haven't said that in a while.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's very imperative. Like, if we get 1,000 subscribers, that would be great. But what's the other thing we want them to do? Subscribe, leave a
comment,
leave a comment, leave a review. I hope everyone's taking notes because it's a lot of stuff we're asking of you, and all you're trying to do is go to sleep.
Buckle up.
Buckle up. So you take out a pencil, lick the tip, writing down notes. First of all, I'm going to leave a review.
Number 1, make notes.
Exactly. No, but this week on the Remote No Pressure podcast, well, a couple things.
Go on.
Don't forget, we've got a couple of events coming up, and we got one in Austin in May for Aaron Reed's book release party, which is going to be amazing. We're very excited about that. I booked the Knickerbocker.
Here in town.
Yeah, their songwriter series this summer.
Wow.
Yeah, and then so I played last night an open mic because I'm working on this set for Aaron Reed's book release party. Because Aaron Reed, for all of you who haven't listened in a while, Aaron Reed invited me to come down to Austin and play for his book release, and I'm super excited about that. Did you just look at your watch?
No, I was itching my arm.
Am I boring you?
What am I? There's nothing on my arm. My watch is here.
Oh, okay.
This is boring. This is curious.
This is what happens when I'm not gonna expound off my earlier
on my wrist?
My racist comments from earlier. I'm gonna just refrain. So, anyways,
words.
I've been playing these open mics around town to get ready for this gig.
Yep.
And I write songs, and people know I'm a songwriter. I played this gig here, this open mic at Founders Brewery, which is a pretty well-known brewery in town. Best beer, I think.
When I was a drinker, that was my favorite place.
It's a great place.
But I was partial to it.
Yeah, because you worked there.
I worked there.
Yeah, as a sound dude.
Yep.
So, anyways.
Professional drinker.
So I ended up playing a couple of my tunes, and the lady from the radio station here in town's like, hey, she invited me on this Wednesday after this publishes, to perform an in-studio performance there at WYCE.
That's pretty sweet.
So I'll put the links
post
up.
A link.
Yeah,
2
I'll
weeks.
post the link so you guys can stream that. It's
actually 1 week.
It's 11 o'clock Eastern time, 10 o'clock Central time. You do the math, you people on the West Coast, but
carry the 5. That's
divisible by 1/8. But yeah, I'm very excited about that, Bill. So
Yes.
if you're in town, tune into WYCE. If you're not in town, you can stream it from all of our platforms. We'll put some links up. Very excited about
exciting.
that.
I'm excited for you.
It was hard for me to sleep last night. I was excited. She goes, "Where have you been?" I was like, "In the basement, changing diapers and taking care of my kids."
That's creepy.
It's really cool to see. Yeah,
You haven't had kids in diapers in a long time.
Exactly.
I'm just keeping up for practice.
Who said it was my kid's diaper? Incontinence.
Your own?
Incontinence is not a joking matter. This episode is brought to you by...
Depends.
I couldn't think of the name of a brand that sells that, and you knew, it was already right there.
Nailed it.
I'm not going to ask you how you knew that.
Thank you.
But anyways, one of the things we like to do here on the Remote No Pressure podcast is musicians on the fly. And this week we've got an awesome musician, Mr. Dan Iead, who is a dobro player, and slide guitar player, and just a sideman for a lot of different bands, including Norah Jones.
Awesome.
He's just an awesome dude, and he fly fishes. And he talks about how he got into fly fishing, and it seems to be the same thing. A lot of times when people get into fly fishing, they're in this transitional period in life, and they're like, I've had this fly rod for a while. That's how I got into it. You're in this transitional period in life, and you start fly fishing. You're like, wow, this really helped me out. And his story is absolutely no different.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's great. It's very thankful for Dan for spending some time with us. So thank you very much, Dan, and welcome to the podcast. Let's light the fire. Well, today on the Remote No Pressure podcast, I'm very excited to talk with New York-based musician Dan Iead. Thank you very much for hanging out with us, Dan.
Thank you, Jeff.
Now, I got your number from John Ladeau, who said, you got to reach out to Dan. He would be a great fit for your fly fishing podcast. And so how did you get into fly fishing? I mean, I know it's kind of a far cry from New York City. We've had a couple of awesome fly anglers from the city who fly fish in Central Park.
Right.
But how did you get into fly fishing? Through John, or?
Well, no, I mean, I actually got into it through my dad, and not that long ago. It's just been something that we do together. My father and I. I didn't really spend much time with my father as a kid, and I lived in California for a while, and I moved back east, about 6-7 years ago, and we kind of just both got into fishing at the same time, but without really talking about it. And then it became something that we do together. So I would credit my dad with getting me into the actual fly fishing, because he's actually pretty good. We've been doing it about the same amount of time, I would say, but he's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Most people fish when they're kids with their dad, and then they end up growing up because their dad did it, and so they did it. Yeah. But you're saying you guys both found it kind of in your adult life.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, essentially, and I think that's really why it's meaningful to me. I mean, just so your listeners know, I am not by any means a professional, and I don't really know much about the technical side of it. But yeah, it was something that really brought me close with another human. The actual act of fly fishing. It was a real bonding, experience. But so I grew up in New England, and I grew up in Long Island Sound, and as a kid, I would go fishing. For sure, like spinner reel, kind of in the ponds and Long Island Sound. But then, as a young adult, I lived in California for a while, for over 10 years, and I never went once when I was out there. But then I moved back east, and I was I was touring a bit, but I was bumming around. I didn't really have an apartment yet. And I was spending a lot of time in my hometown, and I just got really into going down to this pond in town every day. Like I just go in the daytime by myself, and I got really into it. And I just was catching, I'd be lucky if I caught a smallmouth, but I was most of the time I was catching like sunnies and stuff,
Right.
But I really that's what I did every day. I was like kind of a little bit lost, and I really enjoyed doing that. And around that time, my dad got into it too, and he eventually he got into the fly fishing, the fly part of it, and I joined him. Yeah.
It's really interesting, your choice of words when you say you were really lost. What do you mean by that? Were you just lost kind of what's next in your career kind of thing as you move back east, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I was having, I was spending a lot of time in my hometown, and I hadn't done that since I was a teenager. I didn't have a New York City apartment yet, so I was spending a lot of time in my small town. So I was really starting to get this feeling after a while. I was like, am I ever going to get out of here?
Wow.
I started to feel like there's not really much to do there. A lot of my friends that I'm close with, I have a couple still there, but most of them have moved on. So yeah, I was a little bit like, I was definitely certainly like a little bit unsure of my next move career wise, but also I kind of felt a little bit like trapped. Like I didn't know if I was going to ever get out of there, Right. It started to feel that way after some time went by, because just the logistics of getting an apartment here and other life stuff and traveling, I just kind of felt like, I had a plan to get out after a couple months, and 6 months went by, and I was like, I don't know, but eventually I did get out. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was the dynamic like? I mean, were you living with your parents? And if you were, what was the dynamic there with them? I mean, did they feel lost as well? Was it kind of an awkward time?
Well, I mean, I had, I was staying up with my grandparents for a bit, and then because they had an extra room, and with my mom a little bit, and then I'd met somebody, so I started spending time with her at her place, but yeah, I think everyone was really happy that I was there, so I didn't want to seem like I wasn't grateful to be back home again,
right?
But I definitely wanted out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. And the reason I ask all these questions, Dan, and when you say you felt lost and you started fishing this pond, and you just really enjoyed that story is so similar to so many stories we've heard on the podcast, where, including my own, where we've been in this position of life change, like this new job or a new baby or something crazy that happened, and you're like, I don't know, I got to do something. So people end up on the lake or on rivers, and they fall in love with fly fishing, and it's kind of a life-changing thing.
Right. I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I still, the thing is I think about it so much more than I actually physically do it, just due to logistics and me being busy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think as far as I mentioned earlier, as far as like my relationship with my father, that was certainly life-changing. I mean, we might have. It's not to say that we weren't close before necessarily, but this definitely brought us closer. But I don't know if we hadn't got into this fly fishing at the same time, I mean, maybe we would have found something else that we both really liked, but I don't know, So, and that aspect certainly was life-changing for me.
Now, what was your relationship? I mean, I'm not a shrink or anything, but what was your relationship like with your dad when you were growing up? Did you not have a lot in common, or?
Well, he just wasn't around.
Okay.
So he wasn't around when I was very young. He was around, and I know he's going to listen to this too. So I'll be careful with my words. But he wasn't around. He was around when I was very young, and then he wasn't around at all till I was a teenager.
Okay. And
then we kind of were starting to know each other again, and then I took off and moved to California when I was 19. And then so I was away for a while. I would come back east he lives on the East Coast. I would come back east for the holidays and stuff, or if I was on tour. But I never really spent that much time here for over a decade until I moved back 6 or 7 years ago, and we started spending more time together.
Sure. I grew up in a town just south of Houston called Lake Jackson. Well, I moved a lot as a kid, but it's called City of Enchantment, but we all called it City of Entrapment because so many people never leave their hometown.
Yeah.
But there's something about artists and musicians and It's something about that hometown. Like you said, you hadn't been back there, and was it an inspirational time for you? I mean, was there a lot to pull on as you come back, almost like an outsider, almost like a visitor back to your hometown? Was there some inspiration from that?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, because as I was saying, like I would come back for the holidays for a few days, maybe a week at a time, a couple times a year. But yeah, I felt that, I think this happens to a lot of people. And I live in New York now, and I'm not living in my hometown. But like essentially, in a way, I got older and kind of moved back home, and that kind of happens too. I mean, some people never leave at all. Some people go to college and they come back after 4 years. But I think that, so a lot of people, it seems like at some point, whether it's them having kids or something, they kind of move closer to home. And I felt like it was my time. And I did feel like I was kind of like, I kind of moved to California to be a musician, but also kind of to sort of escape my life a little bit, my hometown. Like I really didn't want to get stuck there, as you said. And so coming home, yeah, it was like, I kind of felt, I definitely was growing up, and yeah, inspirational, maybe. It was really hard, as I'd also mentioned, because like I had this sort of identity crisis a little bit because, I was like, am I just going to be stuck in this town forever? Because the thing about that is people in your hometown, they just know you as that awkward 16-year-old kid with like long hair and wearing a tie-dye shirt.
Right,
Even if
right.
you're 30 years old and you do not resemble that at all anymore and you have completely different interests, they still think of you as that. So it kind of messes with you a little bit. I don't need people to be doting on me, but it's really like that's how people see me still.
Right.
If I go to my small town of 20,000 people or whatever it is, 30,000 people. Yeah.
Come back as a brain surgeon and they still see you as a punk kid.
Yeah, the awkward kid with like the long hair and the tie dye and the bell bottom, like that kind of thing. That's like kind of what they still see me as. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really hard. And there's in several religions, there's different references to that. You're not welcome in your hometown kind of thing. And I think that is definitely the case.
Yeah, because I was reading. I was trying to think of this. It was some musician, but he was like, "You can't ever win in your hometown."
Yeah,
because meaning what he was sort of referring to is, and I agree with this. It's like if you're a musician, for example, the most nervous you ever are is when you play in your hometown or for like all your family and old friends. Like that's the most nervous you really ever are,
right?
In my experience, because you can't really ever. You just can't really win. They see you as they remembered you, 20 years ago. So that's really hard. Yeah. So, there's always that element,
Now you've played on quite a few projects. I believe it's Norah Jones is kind of like your main, you're a sideman for her, correct? And
yeah, for the last few years, I've been a part of like recordings and some touring with her for sure. She has like different configurations of things, but yes, I certainly I'm in her orbit, and it's something I definitely really enjoy doing.
how'd you end up there?
Well, it's this is another sort of serendipitous sort of story is that I had met somebody on a gig who told me, and I wasn't living in New York yet. But I remember him telling me, he's like, hey, when you're back in New York, you should come down to this place. We play every week. It's really fun. So 6 months later, or a little bit longer maybe, I'm in New York. I'm in my apartment at the time in the East Village. And I'm sitting at home one night, and I'm like, I think that place that guy told me is like 3 blocks away or whatever. So I remember the name. I didn't know what day of the week it was. I didn't know what time it was or anything like that. So I remembered the name of the place, and I realized it was really close. I walked down there, and it happened to be the night that this was all happening.
Wow.
So I showed up, and it's like, I sat in and I played, and they were like, hey, you want to come back next week? And I was like, all right. So I did that for a while. But anyway, when I started hanging around at this place and playing every week, like there'd be like, yeah, Norah would be there, and Valerie June, like Lenny Cave would be playing my guitar. There'd be like Jayhawks guys and like all these people, who's another person who's a big fishermen. It's like Derek Trucks was there one time with Doyle Bramhall. Like all these people were like there. And this woman, Valerie Jones, who I play with a bit, who I really like, they were all at this place. So that's kind of how it all started for me. Yeah, and if I didn't walk into that club that particular night, I might have went back, but I didn't know what day of the week it was. It just happened to be that I walked in when it was totally happening. You know what I mean? Like I could have like went and nobody was there, and I maybe would have never gone back. You know? Sure. I don't know, but yeah, that's how it all happened.
And then just through that, she saw you playing, or you developed a relationship with some of the cats there, and you guys just started playing.
I mean, they all, we all admire each other's playing and singing, and there's it's sort of a community. But yeah, I consider her and a lot of those other people I mentioned friends at this point. But yeah, we just, we just got, hit it off musically, and I'm forever grateful for that, really, because that really, helped me out tremendously, because I knew people here just from being in the music business for a while when I moved back here, but this was a whole different group of people that I didn't know that I admired. So it was pretty amazing time.
Yeah, I can imagine a lot of excitement, and just that's got to be a very memorable time in your life.
Yeah, it was so much fun. It was every week, and then it had been passed down to various people over the years. Like somebody would like kind of lead it, and when I was doing it, the Swedish guy was leading it, and he plays in this band Alberta Cross, and he used to live in New York, and now he's back in Europe. But I eventually took it over after he kind of passed it on. So I had the night for a while, for like, I don't know how long I had it, maybe like 9 months or something. So I was in charge of like bringing all the people down. And I had some really great musical experiences that way, and eventually became kind of a bit of a job, and I passed it along. But yeah, it was a really great time.
Now you play slide guitar. That's your main instrument?
Well, I play pedal steel guitar.
Okay.
And I also play regular 6-string guitar too. But I think that kind of I'm sort of 50-50 on those. Like they're sort of interchangeable for me at this point. So sometimes I get called to play pedal steel. And sometimes I get called to play guitar. Sometimes I get called to play both. So I kind of go back and forth between those two instruments.
Now, the pedal steel, I grew up in Texas, so there's obviously a lot of players down there. They were all getting very, very old, and it was like no one was really as interested in that pedal steel as, this guy, named Hiram that, Hiram Pear was his name, and he was like a phenomenal pedal steel. Isn't that a great name? Like Hank Williams' original name, Hiram Pear, And so the generation was dying off, and it's so cool to see, because pedal steel is not just a slide guitar. I mean, there's a lot of components to that.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, in the basic level, it has 10 strings, and it has 3 pedals, and it has 4 knee levers, and all those pedals and knee levers change the pitch of particular strings, and it's tuned differently than the guitar, and it has its own tuning too. Yeah, so it's its own thing.
How did you get into that? I mean, most kids want to play guitar, pick up chicks or whatever.
Yeah.
But how did you get into pedal steel?
Well, how I got into pedal steel was my uncles all played guitar.
Okay.
And one of them actually who taught me the actual guitar was actually like a semi-regionally like famous sort of classical guitar player. But anyway, one of my uncles, not the classical guitar player guy, gave me a cassette tape when I was, 15, 16. And it was all this like psychedelic California country stuff. For example, New Riders of the Purple Sage were on there, Flying Burrito Brothers, Graham Parsons-y kind of stuff, like that sort of stuff. And I heard that cassette and I loved it. And it had pedal steel all over it.
Right.
Great players. And I had never seen a pedal steel in person. And I was walking in New Haven, Connecticut with my mother, and I must have been, 16 or 17. And in a violin shop, in the window was a pedal steel guitar.
Wow.
I had never seen one. I was like, how did this thing get here? It's a violin shop.
I was going to ask you, where do you find it? Okay,
I don't know why it was. I don't remember. I don't remember like whose it was or how it got there. Maybe I had asked. Maybe I didn't. I just was so excited. So I eventually got the money up to go and buy that thing. But it was funny. Like I knew the sound so well, and I saw some pictures. This was before like real internet and stuff, but I saw like record covers and stuff with people playing it. But I never saw one in person till I saw it at the violin shop, and I bought that. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So you brought it home. Were your parents? So your dad it must have been pretty understanding on why you would. It wasn't like an odd thing for your family to be like, why did you choose such an odd instrument? They understood kind of where you were coming from.
I think so. Yeah, because I had always sort of. I mean, I played cello when I was very young, and then I played guitar when I was I think 10 or something. I started playing guitar, and then now I'm. So I was really into music, and now at this point I was, I don't know, 16 or 17, probably 17. So I'd already kind of been really into music, and that's what I did with my friends all night and every weekend, and that sort of stuff. So yeah, they were like my mom, who I was living with, was really supportive, of the music thing, and knew that I was fascinated with the instrument. And help me find a way to buy it. I mean, it wasn't expensive. I think it was like $500, and certainly, that's still kind of a lot of money. But like back then, when I was 17, that might as well have been $5,000.
Right.
But I think that she helped me with that.
I remember buying my first real guitar. I saved up like $1,700 to buy a car. And I went to Guitar Center and I spent it all on one guitar, and I had to wait another year to buy a car. But it was totally worth it. I now one time regretted that decision. So
Yeah.
So as far as fly fishing, why fly fishing? Why didn't you take out the spinning gear to the pond there in your local hometown? Why fly fishing? Is there something romantic about that it draws you to it, and your dad as well? Why don't you and your dad like go with the spinning gear? What made you think fly fishing?
Well, it started with the spinning gear.
Okay.
I started individually, my father and I, with the spinning gear separately. So it started with that because that's what I knew as a kid. Like I knew how to do that,
Right.
But then, it was my father who got into the fly fishing first. So that was my introduction. I'd seen people, like one of my uncles at some point when I was a kid, I remember I had this memory of him like practicing casting in my grandparents' backyard. I had this memory. I think I was pretty young. But anyway, yeah, so my father is the one who like kind of stepped it up and got the fly fishing gear and got me some stuff because he knew what I needed. And then, the thing, there's many things I love about it, but I really love the connection of standing in the water. Like there's something about that. Like when I'm standing in the water and I'm kind of looking down and up the river, and just how amazing that feeling is.
Right.
I feel really. I guess what I'm saying. This sounds like real new agey kind of.
No.
I just feel really like connected to the earth, kind of. When I'm standing in the river like that. The spinning stuff I love, and like that's easy and that's fun and stuff like that. But it's a little bit different. Like this I feel like I'm really connected to the world, sort of, when I'm standing in the river like that.
Yeah, it's different, and a lot of times people don't understand, why fly fishing. But when you are, just the sounds of the water going by. I don't want to have headphones in listening to music or anything like that. I want to hear the birds.
No.
I want to hear the water, and it's something about being present as well there.
Yeah,
and that really. I know, like you said, it's kind of new agey, but that's actually essentially what started this podcast, Dan, was that feeling. I went through existential crisis. I lost my job and I had a new baby and all this other stuff. And I started fly fishing because I went to see a psychologist, and she says, you don't need medication. You need a hobby. You need to get outside, and it changed my life, so it may sound new agey, but I think in all honesty, probably 90% of our listeners totally get it. They understand exactly where they're coming from.
Right. Yeah. There's just something special about that. There really is. And it's just the way, like, I can stand out there forever. And also it's challenging too. And I personally like a challenge. Like I really I'm sort of, the rest of my life, like aside from music and fishing and stuff, like my life is like, it's not that it's a mess, but it's like, I won't remember, like if you tell me to take out the trash tonight, I'll forget.
Right.
But like there's something about, like the way my brain works, I just have it, like I just love the challenge, and I love to like break it down, and I love the possibility of me actually hooking something.
Right.
You know, I love all that. I love a project. I love to develop something that I really, really love. And yes, it's challenging for sure. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm sure your listeners are experts, and maybe there's some beginners there too. But it's really a challenging thing it's a challenging undertaking, I believe.
Yeah, there's a little more to it than just putting a worm on a hook.
Oh yeah,
There's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
So, are you a tyer at all? Do you tie your own flies, or you buy?
I buy, but again, I've been like sort of. I feel like this past year, I did a lot of niffing and like woolly buggers and stuff like that. I've never like made my own fly or anything. My father, I've seen him do it, but he's kind of like, I always sort of go, which is kind of something I'd like to do, is be able to go completely solo by myself. I've gone to a destination with somebody and kind of went off and gone my own way and sort of been by myself for a while, but I don't really have I'm not at the place yet where I can just pack up the car and by myself with what I think I need and get to the river and like have any sort of success yet. I'm close. I just don't necessarily know how to read it yet. Like I understand about the hatch, if there's one, and like kind of what the fish are eating and stuff like that, but I'm not entirely sure what the move is when I'm there yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you're always welcome in Michigan, and I'm sure there's plenty of other listeners who would love to take you on the river and show you. But
yeah, if anybody's in the Hudson Valley, let me know.
Well, thanks very much for taking some time with me, Dan. Where if people wanted to learn more about you and the projects you're working on, where's the best place for them to find you?
Well, I will say that I do have a website, and it's DanIead.com. IEAD. I am not a frequent updater. It's probably very old. I think it has like my European tour from last year or something on there. And then also I'm on Instagram. It's the same. You can find me there's no other Dan Ieads.
Okay.
I can show you of that on Instagram. And yeah, that's pretty much. I do, when I'm around, I do teach a little bit guitar and pedal steel and various things related to that.
Okay. Well, great. Well, what we'll do is we'll put those links up on our podcast or on our show notes, so that way people can find you. And Dan, thank you so much. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, Bill, thank you very much for hanging out with us.
Oh, it's always a pleasure.
You ever been to New York City?
I have, back right after 9/11.
What were you doing there after 9/11?
Some friends and I just went over for just a visit. It was May of 2002. And
was Izzy with you?
No.
Oh, no.
That was before I knew Izzy.
Really?
Yep.
So you just wanted to see the rubble and just like what happened? What was it like?
Yeah, it was humbling. Like everybody was very nice. Whenever the fire truck or an ambulance drove down the road, everybody just stopped and applauded.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Cops, everybody was very polite to cops. Just a weird time in history.
Dude, it's so cool that you were able to go there right at that time period. Because like you said, what
big
a weird
crater in the ground where the buildings were, I've got a book that was like somebody's just making money on what happened, but it was like a memorial to the World Trade Center towers,
Dude, I never knew you did that, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a weird time in our life. When I think New York City, I think about that like, because I was 21 at the time.
Yeah.
And
same.
I worked in finance, and our whole business shut down for the day.
Yep.
Wow, that's cool, Bill. I've never been to New York City. I'd like to go to New York City.
It's a cool town, yeah.
Yeah, it would be a very, very cool place to go. But thank you very much, Dan, for hanging out with us, and thank you all very much for hanging out with us. And until next time, I guess, Bill, did you have anything else to say?
No, thanks for listening.
Anything like bottled up that you need to talk about?
Bottled up.
Oh. Rage.
No. I'm good. Things are good. Things are smooth. Yeah. Thanks for checking in, folks. Thanks for checking on us.
Thanks for checking in.
Thanks for listening to Fecal Discharge.
And now our band, Fecal Discharge.
Now to play us out.
They're gonna play us out. They're gonna put some goofy music at the end.
Yeah,
Like
that'd be great.
something stupid. Well, until next time, go fishing.